Lesson 108, Nouns and Accents. Catherine, our readers know about diphthongs. They've been working with diphthongs for a long time. They know about long vowels and short vowels. They know that omicron and epsilon are short, but eta and omega are long by nature. So they know lots of stuff, but we need to just add a little thing here in this lesson. So the big thing I want to tell them in this lesson is that if the final syllable of a noun is long, it can change the accent scheme for that noun.
Right.
And there's an extra complication with some of the diphthongs that we run into. In this lesson, we just want to give them a couple of general concepts about how this works. As we go forward, we're going to learn lots of different forms of each noun. They've already learned 3 forms, right? They know the regular form, like a georgos, and they know how to make that plural by saying georgoi, farmers. And recently they learned the direct object form, which is georgon. So they already know 3 different forms of the word georgos, right?
Right.
And all the other nouns they know how to make 3 different forms of these nouns. And we've got a few to go. We're going to learn more and more different forms. And when I say forms, really what I'm talking about is different endings. We're going to be changing the endings of the nouns.
Because the stem does not change, but the endings do.
Exactly. And so here's the big thing we want our listeners to catch in this lesson. Sometimes when we change the ending of the noun, the ending part of the word is going to have a long vowel. And when that happens, it can do a couple of things to the accent in a word. One of which is it could make the accent move 1 syllable to the right.
Yes. If the accent is not on the final syllable or the second to last syllable, sometimes the final syllable, if it's a long vowel, will pull that accent toward the end of the word. And so it ends up on a different syllable than it is in the regular form or in any of the forms that our listeners have learned already.
So that's one thing that can happen if the last syllable of the word has a long vowel or a long diphthong. It can make the accent move 1 notch to the right. That is 1 syllable to the right. And we'll see that as we go forward. The other thing that can happen is it can just change the accent. Accent can, depending on the word, an accent can change from a circumflex to an acute. So the big takeaway here is if the final syllable of the word has a long vowel or long diphthong, it can mess around with the accent in that word. That's the big takeaway for right now.
Right.
And Catherine, one last thing before we go. We've been throwing around a lot of accent terminology, right? So it wouldn't hurt to review our accents before we go on to the next lesson.
Definitely. So we have our handy-dandy chart at the end of this lesson, and it goes through the different kinds of Greek accents. The first is the acute, and that one is the one that goes up and to the right. And then the grave is the accent that goes down and to the right.
Now, Catherine, that's the one that is on the last syllable of a word. If there's an acute accent on the last syllable of a word, and then there's more stuff after that, it gets converted into a grave accent, right?
Yes, and the grave accent can only go on the final syllable of a word. Then we have the circumflex, and that is the one that has 2 different forms, one of which is the kind of frowny or the arc shape. The other one is the squiggly tilde shape. And they mean the same thing. It just depends on which font of Greek our listeners are using or looking at. And so they mean the same thing. They're both circumflexes. It's just differences in font. And that one can only go on either the last syllable of the word or the second to last syllable of the word. It cannot go on the third to last syllable of the word.
And if a vowel has a circumflex, that vowel must be long, right?
Yes. The circumflex can only be used over long vowels. It cannot be used over short vowels.
Because the idea was that the pitch of the voice would go up and then down. So you'd have to have lots of time to do that, therefore a long vowel.